have 7:30. I will call the meeting of the Londonderry Conservation Commission to order. It is March 24th. I would have Susan vote for Bob, Mike can vote for Jean, and Gary can vote for Elle. And I think we've got that covered. First up is the town hall.
That was up quick. Good evening. My name is James Zanis. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works, and I'm here for a parking lot expansion related to the new building expansion, the SAU building that's going to be constructed just off to the outside wall here. The current existing parking facility, I'm sure all of you well know that it's fairly undersized. And this parking lot expansion will occur in a manner that provides adequate parking for both the existing facility as it sits, as well as the new building expansion for SAU. So with that, I have with me Nick Golan from TF Moran, who did the design and the permitting, and he's going to kind of go run through the details of the project. Any input that you guys might have, feel free to offer. And we already have our wetlands permit application in to the state for review. And we are set to sit before the planning board on the 1st and give our presentation there for those folks. This does require a conditional use by rule, but of course the town doesn't get its own permits. So, but we do present on them.
All right, thank you, James. So as James mentioned kind of at the end there's no formal permit that's issued, but we still go through all of those procedural steps to make sure we're soliciting comments from all the right parties, Conservation Commission included. So this is actually a pretty good picture here as far as what we're proposing. But could we back up 2 sheets? So this is a phased project. I apologize, one more. There it is. So as part of this phased project, we have buffer impacts that are associated with the initial phase of the project for the build out of the first section of the parking lot. So this will also serve as a construction staging area for the building itself. We're looking at a buffer impact just over 5,700 square feet associated with this work. So no wetland impact is associated with this first phase. This really allows us to build the building, to build the initial portion of the parking lot, which will then be used for laydown as we really build our building and provides places for folks to park as part of that overall project. So you can see what that area of blue is. That is our area of that impact to the buffer only. If we flip to the next couple of sheets through that were highlighted in color. So this is what we're looking at for impacts that are associated with the second phase of the project. So this would be the completion of the parking lot, as well as the build out of the impound area. So we do see a little bit more impact with this portion. We're looking at just over 14,000 square feet of buffer, and then a 5,614 square foot permanent wetland impact with 916 square feet of temporary impact. So I think folks are probably familiar with this area because we could walk right out the back door and go take a look. I'm hoping everybody took the opportunity to. When we started this project in partnership with the town, had the opportunity to walk this myself with our wetland scientist to get a little bit of a feel for, all right, there's a need for parking expansion, especially with SAU 25 employees coming back to this location. How do we best accomplish this? How do we best accomplish it by minimizing our impacts to any of the environmental resources we have? One of the difficulties we have here is proximity. You know, we can't put this parking on the other side of the moon and expect people to be able to walk comfortably to the building. So the strategy that we devised was essentially building out the layers of the parking lot and tucking them as close to the existing building as possible. So there is a little bit of, kind of, we'll call it grassed island but it's been minimized to the extent practical, really just to make up for grade changes, so that we're not building retaining walls or something that would be cost prohibitive for the town to build. In a similar fashion, when we look at the area that's directly behind the impound lot, which is represented by where it says dog pound on the building, you can see there's a slight modification in the geometry of that area. We've pulled that area in so that we could decrease our wetland impacts. The intent being that we're only working along the fringes of the wetland versus having any detrimental impacts to the more central locations of these wetlands. This is just the one wetland that was identified on site. The dominant wetland system present is a PF01E, which is a forested wetland. When we look at the ecological scoring for this, it tells us the state would consider it a very low functioning wetland. If anything, the highest criteria or component of that wetland really has to do with its educational value because there's a walking trail that surrounds it. So that is one element that we were looking for a little bit of feedback on. We realize there'll be a disruption to that trail, whether or not there's some thoughts that the Conservation Commission has to try and retain that or otherwise to make sure that continues to function. Otherwise, I'll try and be fairly short and sweet with this. We ended up being just over 5,000 square feet of impact. We were trying to narrow that down to make sure we could also avoid any secondary impacts or costs with the Army Corps of Engineers. Just the geometry of the lot doesn't allow it. In order to provide a useful, functioning parking lot with the necessary depths for the vehicles that we would anticipate, as well as the necessary turning movements for the aisle width that is necessary and is in keeping with the town's requirements, these are the impacts that are generated. I'll also mention that there is an ecological review that's now required as part of this. So Wetlands Bureau and AOT have switched it up a little bit on us as far as how that process works. It used to go specifically through Fish and Game. Fish and Game has now come on board really with AOT, so there's an ecological section where you're now submitting this information. We did have a hit for specific turtle species, and we've evaluated the area for that use and hopefully built in the appropriate safeguards to protect that species should it be present during construction. Questions?
The area, it says police department impoundment,
Impound lot. Yep.
yeah. Vehicles gonna be parked there?
James, do you want to provide a little background on how that area is used, if you have it, and if otherwise I will give as close an answer as I can.
Yeah, that's intended to kind of expand the area that they currently have for vehicle storage is that's being, impounded related to police action.
And it's gonna be pervious surface,
It's
not paved,
gravel.
Yep.
it's gravel.
Yeah.
So you're gonna park vehicles on top of a wetland?
No, the wetland's going to be filled in that location in the small corner.
So from a
But the
topograph-
drainage is still gonna go in the wetland.
No. So we've arranged when you look at those topographical features, what we've created is essentially a gutter line along the interior portion of the impound lot that'll then flow behind the cars along its existing drainage path, where it'll enter either into a catch basin at midstream or then flow all the way to a catch basin at the very end of the run. Could we put maybe 1 or 2 pages? That one's perfect. So you can see represented by the manner in which those contours are formed where they break back. That's establishing the gutter line. So when we project to the impound lot, instead of draining outwardly, we're draining inwardly. So that way, any of the runoff that's associated with that surface will have the ability to be directed to a closed drainage system where it'll then go enter into the stormwater management area that's located downstream. So no new impervious or gravel surfaces are being discharged to a wetland. They will be discharged to a stormwater management practice.
Would that cover plowing as well? Say, for example, like the winter that you guys just went through. Would that also take into consideration excess snow and therein excess salt?
So from let's call it a stormwater management calculation standpoint, we're evaluating different year storms. So we're looking at 2, 10, 25, and 50-year storm from the town's requirements. So if we wanted to do an equivalent of what does a 50-year storm look like, that's over 7 inches of runoff. It's a good comparison such that if we had snow melt within that parking lot, chances are it's probably not raining at the same time that you're going to get 7 inches. So it's really a balancing effect of those different weather systems. So that even if we got an inch or two of rain and we had a foot of snow on the ground, the equivalent runoff would be equal to that 50-year storm or something comparable. So does it account for it? Yes, but more in a roundabout way.
It doesn't show any snow storage on the plan.
Correct. Snow storage is going to be a little bit of a tough evaluation for this site. How are you guys currently managing your snow removal for this site? Is there a more centralized area maybe over
No.
by fire department or?
Yeah, so I'm sure all of you saw our massive piles around the site through the course of this winter time, given the amount of snow that we had. So, that same scenario will continue. We will store snow where there's available space, typically in landscape areas and outwardly. So no, this plan does not specifically identify a snow storage area, except to say that that it will be placed in areas, where there's no trees and no pavement, and possibly start taking up some pavement, depending upon how much snow we actually get that year.
You do realize if you start putting it on top of too many plants, it's going to kill the plants. So you're going to have to
When I
factor
say
that in.
landscape, I say grass. There's not going to be plants and trees and that kind of stuff. This is not going to be a landscaped, properly landscaped, with bushes and.
So requirements for landscaping are out. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yeah, that was actually one of the points in the site plan that we made note of.
So the impoundment area has nothing to do with the initial site, for the school, correct? For the,
I believe the question is, what is the nature of the improvement in the impound lot? Why are we doing it?
Why is the impoundment being included in this?
So as part of any, kind of capital improvement project, the town evaluates what their needs are. It's my understanding there was also known to be a need for the impound lot to be increased in size. Whether that was because vehicles are being stored within parking spaces where they're not supposed to be, or otherwise, I can't specifically state, but maybe James can expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah, so it's exactly what Nick says. So in keeping with any project that the town would do, we look at needs across the board. And in this case, police department has a need for additional storage. So while it is unrelated to the SAU itself, and you are correct in your statement, it is an effort that we are working with the police department to provide for a little bit of extra space where some is sorely needed, kind of at the same time this project is happening.
And it's really hard to go to the well twice.
Well, it's not a go to the well part. Actually, that element of the project would actually be paid for with funds available kind of through the police department. This project won't pay for that.
But to the point of doing all that work in one singular project, it provides that opportunity. So
Correct.
the fact that the SAU was looking to expand the parking lot in this building provides the opportunity for more of a singular mobilization, which in the long run saves cost.
And you have technically more parking than is required.
From a calculation standpoint, we're basically hitting the mark. So there's approximately 70 additional parking spaces that would be provided. Having had the opportunity to be here in this building when there's multiple events or a very large meeting, it would appear you well exceeded what you need, or you were well deficient in what you needed. The expectation is with these added spots, it will help rectify the current parking deficiency, as well as support the additional employees that'll be here for the SAU 25.
This is slightly off conservation topic, but a resident mentioned that some of the problem with the parking back here is the high school students park there during the day. And I don't know how that's going to be controlled, because perhaps we wouldn't need so much if the students weren't allowed to park there.
I don't know how to answer that. I came from a place in my last employment where that exact same thing, happened, where quite literally the school was across the street from the town hall, and students parked in the town hall parking lot quite frequently. I don't know what the resolve to that is. You're obviously not going to give employees parking passes, and, residents who are here for business aren't going to have parking passes, so it's kind of hard to regulate children who are, I'll use the word illegally, parking on town ground versus school ground.
But a good point and something to evaluate moving forward.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm back on the plants. Who made the decision not to put any plantings in?
That is a function of making sure that we have just a well-thought-out project related to a parking expansion. The building itself does have a landscape plan associated with it. So it complies with that element of the site plan, but this parking lot expansion is associated with the building expansion, but not necessarily a direct, it's more of a complement to the
It's
to
just
the
so
building
counter
expansion.
to all the other things that we support in Londonderry and in other, and in town offices and in other things. It's just, to me, it just looks like pavement, 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 and with no thought, we'll cram the parking places in, and we won't even try to make it a little bit pretty.
Well, and I
It
think
disappoints me.
there is.
We certainly can take that into consideration and see what we might have for some opportunity, and Nick and I will kind of go back and scratch our heads. I'll also touch base with the Public Works Director to kind of see where we might have some ability to provide some level of improvement.
Certainly in that area between the new, old section and the new section, that, everybody would see that. They might not all
Maybe-
see anything going on in the back.
Maybe there's an opportunities for some variated grasses, or you're right, some sort of element to help break up the
Yeah.
space. We'll
Thank
we'll
you.
evaluate
Or
that.
something to provide shade, because typically
Well-
when we're asking for trees in parking lots, it's to
I would
That's-
suggest to you that the most viable option in this scenario, given the layout, and our constraints, obviously proximity to wetland, that kind of stuff, would be a couple of small trees in the landscape area between the two, the new and the old, type of thing. Now, the only challenge there is we also have lighting there, so you would be challenged with how the light infrastructure would complement or combat against trees, but we certainly will look at it.
And thank you for reminding me of something that we haven't really talked about. We were very big on downward-facing lighting 12 years ago, and it hasn't come up. And I think that we changed the regulations a bit to make the lighting as conservationally involved as possible. Do you guys know?
Yep, so dark sky compliance have been integrated into the project, and I
Okay.
believe it's LED lighting as well, which is more efficient.
Thank you.
which would match what's out here now.
Yes.
And then one of the conservation commissioners who isn't here tonight but was reviewing the plans at home mentioned something about a manhole in the middle of the parking lot, one of the parking areas.
There is a catch basin just outside of the travel path that's being proposed in order to allow us to capture stormwater. But I'm not aware of a proposed drain manhole that
Because
would be
he
in the middle. of the
commented
parking.
that it was 3 feet below the wetland and wasn't sure how that was going to work,
Okay.
the level of the wetland.
Understood it. I will check to make sure that that isn't in conflict, but I don't believe that's a concern.
Okay.
Is the parking where the new office, that's additional parking than used to be out there?
Out in front of, right in front of the building? So where there's a reorganization in front of the building as far as accessible parking.
Okay.
Right now, speaking as an accessible person, it's a little difficult relative to where you park and try and enter into the building. So we're trying to make it a little bit more centralized, so better ease of access.
We're actually adding in 2 additional accessible spots as well as putting accessible ramps right at those spots.
When you said that you hit the required parking on the nose, were you talking about for the addition or the site as a whole?
I apologize, Mike, what was that again?
Nick said that the parking spaces now provided are exactly equal to the parking spaces required. But what I'm asking is was he speaking about the new addition and the new parking spaces, or was he talking about, after all is said and done, the complex as a whole?
The intention is the complex as a whole. So there's just under 214 spaces that are required mathematically. I'll see if I can add up the number of spaces that we have, but with the addition of the 70 spaces we're looking for, it starts to balance out the needs of the overall site. So not an exact, I'll see if I can procure that information as we're sitting here talking, but it puts us a lot closer to or it helps remove the deficit that we currently have. I think the reality is more parking is always desirable when it comes to town hall office buildings, to make sure people can park as close as possible to the structure. We're a little bit limited in that, so we're trying to put parking where it's most intelligent, but also by limiting the environmental impact that's associated with it.
How much time will elapse between the end of phase 1 and the start of phase 2?
That's going to be a function of the permit itself and the contractor's availability. So we have dictated that what we've identified as phase 1, and the reason why we've identified it as phase 1 is because that's the portion of the parking lot that does not require any wetlands impacts. It just has that small buffer impact. So we've identified with the contractor that they shall build a staging and storage area at that location, so they do not occupy any existing spaces, particularly at the front of the building itself, the existing main building. So they will either bring that to gravel or they'll bring it to binder grade, and then they will occupy that area. Now, from a timing standpoint, we do expect that the wetlands permit itself will we'll call it June. At that point, they can immediately start and continue with the balance of the construction of the overall contract, or they can phase it at their discretion as it relates to the building construction. So critical path will be, again, we'll call it phase 1. Then we're going to get into the building construction itself, and then they need to get the building weather tight before wintertime. So once that occurs, then it's a function of how they schedule out the balance of their work.
And just to circle back to the earlier question, so at a count of 3 spaces per 1,000 and requirement, there's an existing 214. We'll have 259 parking spaces after completion. So, but from the town's mathematical requirements, we'll be able to slightly exceed the minimum required.
Yeah, actually, by quite a bit.
I think from personal experience, as well as probably the experience of the people in this room, that there's a no need for additional parking at this site. And the relocation of the folks for the SAU 25 building will exacerbate that. So the 3 spaces per 1,000 is a little bit of a magic number that somebody decided belonged in a regulation. I think it's fair to say that this facility could use a little bit more parking, which is now going to be provided.
You know how big the existing wetland is?
I don't have a square footage of that overall complex. It does expand a considerable ways
Yeah,
further to the north and east.
Yeah, it's significantly larger than what's shown on this plan, and I will offer to you that it is anywhere between 5 and 10 times the size of what is shown on the plan as in total right here.
So again, that was part of our methodology for minimizing
Pages there.
our impacts, is trying to only see those impacts take place at the periphery of the wetland.
It appears to be just a drainage area for the overall field complex, which is, up gradient, and this is just kind of a low-lying As Nick mentioned, it's a, you know, forested wet area, low functioning, and it's just a drainage area.
So the phase one area will just be surfaced with gravel, and then at some point, it'll have to be paved. I think I got that
Correct. The
right?
details of the paving are not known, at least in this moment. The contractor is looking to get that to pavement. It works better in everybody's advantage to at least get that first phase to binder course pavement. And then they can operate their storage and lay down, you know, from a paved surface versus a gravel surface. It suits everybody better to make it happen in that manner. But I can't say definitively as we sit here that that is what's going to happen.
And that laydown area is likely, out of convenience if nothing else, include the buffer, right, that you indicated.
Yes,
The-
correct,
The
yeah.
buffer impact's really a function of drive aisle location in order to get access to that rear portion. If that driveway was shifted over, then potentially we could have avoided that impact.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't allow for the phase construction that we proposed. in
Yeah,
this clear
because
manner.
in fact, if all goes well, the the phases are really just an artifact of your administrative requirement of getting through the Wetlands Bureau, and this is gonna be pretty much a continuous project all the way through with any kind of success at all at DES, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So, recognizing that you can do whatever you darn well please here, but, you know, it's hard for us to hold other contractors' feet to the fire in terms of impacting the buffer, certainly in terms of impacting wetland. And the zoning ordinance, even with a conditional use permit, doesn't allow parking in the buffer. Now, you don't show it, but the buffer will, assuming you're successful in your wetlands permit, the buffer will change slightly, because you'll have a new edge of wet, which is basically gonna be the end of your construction there. So the buffer will go up 50 feet from there, which will probably, maybe cover like the first half in the alley of the new area. But again, you know, we even if we wanted to, we couldn't recommend the planning board pass a conditional use permit that allowed for buffer. It's just not an allowed use of, it's not an allowed conditional use. So it creates a bit of a dilemma. I can see other people that come into this commission saying, look, you let the town do it. You know, what are we, chopped liver? So I don't have a good solution other than the fact that if you're really providing 45 or so extra spaces, maybe the thing to do is to work harder at figuring out how to deal with that. I don't know if you could certainly, I've been to all kinds of facilities that have visitor passes and visitor parking and allowing staff to have stickers that allow them to get in. And I've even heard of schools that issue stickers to the kids so they can park, or in this case, not park. So I think all those things need to be looked at.
Understood.
Points taken. Thank you.
Well, I think a little project with the police department to, you know, cause some angst to students who are parking there, to convince them to park elsewhere. But that's
Yeah, but-
not in our,
Well, the library tells you to go to the police department if you have a complaint. Or they did.
like you said, you're gonna do whatever you want, so.
Regardless of that component of this project, we appreciate you taking the time to evaluate this and provide that commentary. Obviously, that'll go to the planning board as part of what we're doing, and it gives the project team the opportunity to evaluate those concerns and to see if there is an opportunity to address that in any capacity. So it is still valuable information, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, the intent of us coming here is to seek input, and certainly we value the input that's provided by the commission. You know, if there are abilities of us to make some improvements and mitigate further, then we'll do so. So we're hearing loud and clear that if there's an ability to eliminate some parking, you know, in the interest of mitigating some of the impacts, we definitely should consider that. I question whether or not that would happen. There's a known definitive need for the additional parking here. There's absolutely no question about it. Nick properly articulated that if we were to situate all of the parking in a non-impact area, then it becomes a challenge just to get people from point A to point B. They're just not going to walk that far. At that point, you're building a parking lot for the baseball fields.
Maybe we should have them park at the high school. Just swap.
Yeah, right.
Turnabout's fair play, right?
Fair enough. Well, we don't want to take any more of your time. We
Well,
realize
I
you have
just,
other
I just wanted to
applications
say,
review.
it would be a good faith thing if we could work, since the police are involved in this, work with some kind of a system to stop the high school parking. Because the more places you have, the more people are gonna take advantage of it. And you're
Please-
gonna be right back where you started.
Understood, but please bear in mind, this element of the impound area is an ad that will be coordinated with the police department. It's not a requirement of the project.
Well, wouldn't they like to contribute to
Yep,
the help of the people in the town?
yeah, certainly.
Well-
It sounded as though you were relating the project to their action.
No, I
No, the
just,
students
just-
parking.
Oh, I apologize, I misunderstood.
yeah, no, they could help us with that, probably.
Yeah. Fair enough.
If we walked out the back door right now, how many cars would we see in the existing impound? You know?
You know as well as I am. We can go for a walk and check it out.
2, 3?
I
Only
couldn't
3 or
begin to,
4
it's,
fit.
so it's more than just the impound area, so you can see out in front of the building itself, you can see the various police trailers that are there, you can see off to the left-hand side of the building, there's a Connex box there, I think there's a light trailer there. They just have, you know, various items that are kind of strewn about, so that expansion of their impound area will encompass space for their trailers or that Connex box or the light trailer.
Operational improvements that are sorely
Yeah,
needed.
exactly. Operational improvements.
Will the dog pound stay the way it is?
What's that?
Will the dog pound stay the way it is?
There's no changes
Yeah.
from a plan perspective relative to that area.
Correct. It's just an expansion of storage area and a fence.
I guess it
Well,
decided-
the power went off.
Technology.
That's our curtain call. Time to go.
I guess you're done.
All right. Thank you, folks. We got the hook.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now can I find this again?
So
Good. Oh, that's it.
our concern about the parking and to reduce the wetland buffer impact. Is that our comments?
No, I think we also need to recommend they investigate reducing the parking area numbers by working with the police department and the schools to figure out a system that will allow, that will eliminate student parking in the town complex. I don't know if it's worth it or not, but they might want to, include a proposed buffer that would take effect when the wetlands permit was signed too, on on the plan, just to, so we have a,
Yeah.
so they can calculate
Yeah.
what the real impact is gonna be.
It would be useful to know. And we also should encourage them to follow up on their figuring out some kind of vegetation planting.
Okay, so
I mean, they say they'll look
include
at
like
it.
a post-development buffer?
A post-permitting buffer, I guess it would be.
Well, once the wetlands application is approved and changes the wetland, that's when
That changes the buffer.
that changes the
Right.
buffer. So I don't know, well, post,
Yeah, I don't mean to say proposed buffer in the sense that they eliminate it, but I mean, where is the 50-foot buffer?
where is the new buffer?
And then include plantings
Remind of suggestion to
in the parking.
and do some planting in the parking.
You're up.
I'm from up north. We still go old school with paper planes.
I like those
We
guys.
used to love our paper plans.
I like them.
Well, good evening, board. Thank you first off for being here to take the time to listen to us tonight. The project we're proposing is 15 contractor work bays over by the airport on Plainview Drive. The reason we're here tonight is that to make this project work, there are 3 wetland crossings. One for the main entrance, and then 2 to create a loop road to access the whole site and get around. We have submitted our AOT and our wetlands permit to the DES, as well as to the town for town review. I would like to note that this project was
Wetlands
approved back in 2013,
you
and the
get the
original
wetlands
approval
permit
was to
anymore?
fill in all the wetlands. DES and the town approved it. The whole site was gonna be completely filled. The owner has then since stepped back, and we've reassessed, and now we've minimized our impacts to 4,000 square feet to get our 3 crossings in, just to create access to the site and a loop road for truck and public safety access.
Do we want to go to the building
Yep, if we want to go probably 3 sheets up. Couple more. That one works. Yep, that'll work.
And
So-
there's a remote there if you want, if you hold down, yeah, the top button, the very top one.
Yeah.
You point it at that one and you can control.
Oh, okay. So our first crossing is here. That's a minimal crossing. It's about 1,100 square feet. Our second crossing is here. That's about 1,800 square feet. And this is our largest crossing here. Like I said, originally, they had gotten this whole site approved to fill in the wetlands from setback to setback,
How long ago was that?
2013. And it was gonna be storage buildings.
And how much wetland are we talking?
On site, it's just over half an acre.
I'm sorry for interrupting, to actually fill in.
They were, the original approval was to fill in the whole site.
Yeah.
There were storage units sitting right where this is right now. The whole site was completely filled in with a septic right here and parking over the wetlands, and that was approved in,
2013.
yeah, 2013. So, you know, we've stepped back. They're gonna be contractor bays, 2,500 square feet of contractor bay, 4 in each building, except for this 4th building will be 3. Water will be treated. It's gonna run into a storm tech system and then through a bay filter system, which is a high-tech filter system, which requires maintenance contracts and everything once purchased. We've done everything to minimize the wetland impacts that we can to make this land still usable and viable, and create a great tax base for the town. We did meet with Emma Berger back about 8 months ago with the Wetlands Bureau. Went over the old plan versus the new one. She was appreciative of our willingness to step back the site and lose a substantial amount of buildable property. So, you know, we do understand that it does impact the wetlands. We're gonna put in culverts. We've corresponded with Fish and Game, and we will work with Fish and Game on making sure that we're keeping corridors open for turtles and whatever else. We're gonna follow Fish and Game's requests for cutting time limits, stumping time limits, what we have to do as far as getting biologists involved if we need to. But to make this site a viable site, these crossings are required.
And this wetland feeds into the little coas?
Yes. Now, we have reduced the amount of impervious that was originally approved, and our stormwater management system is far more advanced and better than the original ponds that they just had before. With which I honestly don't understand the ponds that they had permitted, because the water table doesn't work for that, and this is why we're putting the bay filter system.
And what was the wetland type here, classification?
It's a PF01E, low impact wetland. It doesn't have high value, but it's still a wetland, and we're going through the proper steps to make sure that we're accommodating.
What do you mean by high value?
It fosters some plant life, some animal life, but, high value wetlands are, you get the vernal pools, it's an awful way to put it, but that's how the DES values them. It's high value, low value. This isn't what they would consider like a super high value wetland.
If it's all right if I add for our new member, there is a whole set of questions they go through, and
Yeah, I did.
you have seen
I
that.
looked
So
over a lot of them before I came.
it's not simple.
Yeah, no, I brought the application if anyone wants to read it. It's a fun one to go through. And like we did, we made it a point to meet with the DES before we did an initial just rough sketch. This is what we're thinking. We met with the DES to get their impact and feedback, because we didn't want to get to this point and have the DES go, well, we don't like that. That doesn't make any sense. So, we made sure to incorporate the appropriate people. We've obviously been meeting with the town as well, with Mr. Trottier, to kind of make sure we're refining our design to meet the town standards and what the town would like to see. It is a great location for a project like this. Unfortunately, there is a lot of wet over there by the airport. But it's a nice place to have a project like this and bring this type of tax base to the town.
So one of the problems here is it's not so much the impact you're imposing on the wetlands on the site as it is the fact that the site is going to basically drain very shortly into one of our prize brooks, Little Cohas Brook. So that's concern number one for me. And then concern number two is that I think this is going to be visible from the rail trail, and we have tried to work really hard to keep that as a all natural view shed.
Yep, and we've actually had that. We have done prelim meetings with planning board as well, and we've had that discussion. And where the site is visible, and we're working through landscape design to meet the town and Stantec and everyone's, is right up here is where it's going to be visible, and we are going to accommodate that to make it not visible. It should not be visible through here, but
Because there's about a 20-foot elevation.
yeah, there's a
difference.
big elevation difference.
Yeah.
This is the only place where we really have that concern. We are going to accommodate that with landscaping, and we're working through to figure out what it is the town would like to see, and working with John, what's going to go there to make sure that it's not visible. And then as far as you're concerned as to where it's draining into the brook, we're curbing the site where we need to curb it. Everything's going into a closed drainage system, and then going through this bay filter system for that specific reason. When the water leaves the site, it is leaving clean.
And where does it leave, could you just kind of diagram, maybe
Yep,
there's a better
so-
plan to talk from, but.
Yep, so this is StormTech, the biggest StormTech. It runs through this system, it hits this, and then there's a bay filter here, and it daylights out here. The second system is right over here, in this under this parking lot, and it goes to another bay filter, which will daylight out this way. And it's daylighting to where it naturally daylights now, and it's leaving in the same volume, same CFM as it is now, or less, because that's a requirement of AOT.
And where's your snow storage going to be?
Snow storage will be back here, will be on top of this system, which is actually graded and slopes back into the parking lot. So as it melts, it'll go through the system. Because this is an underground detention system. This is buried. And then this will go here, which is also going to slope back in and get into our drainage system before it leaves the site.
So I was looking at the map. Did you say that the site is lower than the rail trail area?
Higher.
Higher.
Higher, quite a bit higher.
How does that?
So you're going to be looking into a bank. You're not going to be
Right.
looking into.
Oh, okay, because there are
yeah.
a lot, there will be still a lot of trees there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's quite a bit. So, and I'm not quite sure the history of this. You might know better than me. But if you look, all of this area here is, well, it is unbuildable because of the setback, but this was land given up.
Yeah, so that's mitigation.
That's
area.
mitigation area. It can
Yeah.
never be built on. It's
Right.
always going to be wooded. It can never be changed.
So of the 9.56 acre lot,
We have
almost
Four acres.
of it is mitigation area
Yeah.
around the back and lower side.
Was that part of the original project?
So it's part of the original
Yeah, that's what I
subdivision
thought,
because,
yeah.
And if I look at this right, the gray area on the plan we're looking at here is pavement, right?
correct. Yes.
And then the stippling is
Stippling is lawn, grass.
grass, okay. And if I remember right, there is a maintenance, O&M plan attached
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
the-
O&M
to the
plan has been submitted to both the town's engineer and to AOT for review, and that'll be part of the owner's requirements of maintaining the system.
There was a day when that John Trotter didn't like these underground systems. And the reason was because they're a potential liability in terms of maintenance.
Right.
And that they can fail. And the
Correct.
question is, will you see that failure and will you report that failure? Not you guys, of course, but
Yes, understandable, and we actually did, originally we tried for open. We tried for ponds, it wasn't feasible. The area isn't there with the groundwater we have and the infiltration. It would have been more detrimental to the environment not to go this route, and unfortunately, we have to rely on people's honesty to maintain what they're supposed to maintain.
who was it that said trust but verify?
And that could be something discussed with John as far as people submitting to the town that they're doing their maintenance. But that's beyond design, that's beyond us. We write these manuals for a reason. People should be abiding by them. But we can't design to the person who might not. It stops all development across the board.
What's typically the lifespan of those things?
The storm tech systems, if maintained, I'd say 40 years. I mean, to me, it's no different than a septic system. If you maintain it, it'll continue to infiltrate, it'll continue to do what it's supposed to. These are actually not even infiltration systems, that's why we have the filters in, they're just storage. So there'll be a liner underneath. So as long as we maintain the volume it can store, and they maintain the bay filters, which actually you're required to sign a maintenance contract on when you buy. It's all it is they're storing water to control the outflow so our CFM doesn't go up.
An underground detention pond.
Yeah. But we couldn't get the volume we needed out of an above ground system or an open system.
Is there any limitation on the types of businesses that can occupy these bays?
So, I mean, currently we're going for an S2 occupancy use, but any change to that, which is basically just limited warehouse space, which should cover most small contractors. If anything were to change that, I'd have to go in front of the planning board. Yeah.
What I'm concerned about is spills.
Yeah, that would any business that would require like cleaning detergents or regularly managing hazardous wastes or oils would be a different use, yeah.
A different,
Occupancy use for the space, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going for all S2, and if someone comes in and buys a unit and wants to be an S3 where they are dealing with hazardous, they have to come back before planning board and you.
Right. Which would ultimately, we'd be revisiting this
Yeah.
entire effort, yeah.
So can we say there will be no hazardous materials stored in these bays?
You're gonna have vehicles.
Right.
I mean, there's always gas and oil. There's nothing we can do about that. It's a garage. But it's not gonna be cleaning companies. It's not gonna be someone with,
I think what you're probably mostly concerned about is the drainage into the,
Right.
the detention system, right? Yeah.
Is vehicle maintenance allowed in these bays?
Not with an S2 use, no.
so a mechanic couldn't,
Changing oil or
couldn't, yeah,
transmission
mechanic
fluid?
couldn't buy into one of these. It'd be, I mean, my assumption is it'd be a
And even if-
landscaper
Right.
or a drywall guy who needs a bay space, a little office with a small bathroom to go load his truck in the morning and go to his job site.
Can the landscaper have herbicide stored there?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And that's one worth bringing up and we can look into further
Fuel?
if that's covered with S2 or not.
Fuel?
I think you're allowed fuel to a point. A couple 5-gallon gas cans do not fall under, but you can have, probably 100 gallon. And we'd have to look into volumes, but, it's not gonna be someone servicing a 500-gallon oil tank that he's changing oil with. But a landscaper with some 5-gallon gas cans in the back of his truck is probably more than okay.
Or 50 gallons worth of diesel in a tank, right?
Yeah.
I think that we should recommend that they include a provision on the plan that prohibits
Well,
leasing to a
This
business.
is just, I don't know, the agenda says dredge and fill, so I don't know if we are supposed to be looking at the site plan or just the dredge and
Oh.
fill.
Yeah, this is just for the dredge and fill. I mean, we don't mind
So-
filling
Yeah, we have-
we don't mind filling everyone in on the project, but we're just here because of the dredge and fill for
So
the
have
three
we
crossings.
gotten our copy of the dredge and fill, is my question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have another
It's-
one if anyone
It's
needs a hard
been
copy to
lost,
look at.
they've been lost in the shuffle over the years.
It's an ongoing issue that I've spoken to the town clerk about, and it's still an ongoing issue.
Yeah,
That's
the
wrong.
DES has
Well, I
recently,
only have this one.
DES has recently changed the rules, but hasn't put it on their application yet, where we're required only to provide the town one copy and an electronic.
Right.
But the application still says 4, so people get very confused on, we don't have enough papers.
Oh,
We don't have,
'cause
so it's, the
I don't
law
know if it
now is
was
one
your
hard.
application
It's-
that says the electronic copy, and
Yeah.
it's like, thank you.
Yep, so now everything's electronic, plus you get one hard copy for the town clerk to
Yeah,
hold on to.
because we would much prefer the electronic.
Yeah, and we
because
sent
then I
everything
can
over
share it.
electronic.
Yep.
Yeah,
You do get it, electronic?
I did, I think you guys were the first one that just sent it to me, electric.
Oh,
so,
okay.
but It's in the
packet.
pack.
Yeah.
yeah. Yep, and we had Luke Hurley out of Derry, a wetland scientist, to do this application for us.
Because the way it's, the procedure, you bring it to the town clerk for her to sign off
And
on,
then
and then,
selectmen get a copy,
yeah,
yeah.
the-
It's a
Doesn't
mess.
make sense.
5 copies go every which way, but it says, I think at one point it said, if available,
Yeah,
provide a digital copy. Well, do you give it to the town clerk? Well, who do you give it to? Doesn't say.
I used to bring a thumb drive in, and then whoever
I
knows
was gonna
whatever
say, that
happened
would
to
be
that.
the only way I
Yeah.
could see that working. But other than to just, how did you do it? Email?
He asked for it emailed. I think we brought a thumb drive. Who
Yeah.
knows where that is, but he said, could you email it, and we
Yeah.
emailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be,
Well, when I started doing this, back in the day, dot, dot, dot,
Get a carrier pigeon?
Yeah.
about,
so, comments for,
Could I just ask also about the culverts? And I probably should have dug this out of the plan, but could you tell me what they are?
The culverts right now are 18-inch HDPE culverts. We were 12 inches because that actually handled the hydrology of it. Fishing Game asked us to go up a little bit and get some gravel into the bottom of them to give turtles a little more of a chance. So we went to 18, and we will put some gravel in the bottom. So The turtles have a better walking surface than smooth plastic. But 12-inch was plenty to hire, or to catch the hydraulic connectivity that was needed for these. These are very, if you walk the site, the wetlands are very hard to see. It's not, as a layperson, I'm not a wetland scientist, I wouldn't even know they're there. You know, that's why we hire the professionals. They look like everything else around us. So they're, you know, they don't have a huge hydraulic connectivity. There's not flowing water. It's just enough to where if it gets a very wet time, we can catch that water and keep it moving the direction it wants to move. Obviously, we've also signed that anyone who wants to go walk the site, they can. The wetland flags are on all the trees to see, numbered in the same way they're numbered on our plan set.
Anything? Well, you know, when we look at the plan, we're gonna be curious about the S2,
Yep, and it's,
what can be in.
yeah, and
those
we've specified
S2s.
that in our application as well, that this is an S2 use.
But
We are
for us,
not.
we don't know what that means. We don't know
Yeah,
who qualifies as an S2.
It's really the simplest version of warehouse
Yeah.
and storage, yeah.
Yeah, warehouse
The
storage.
question of pesticide and herbicide storage comes up.
The-
Is-
yes.
But those types of uses, and I think that it is a concern with the drainage, but those types of uses are regulated with their own requirements as those type of companies would move in, they would have their own requirements with the town of how they need to manage that and how they would need to deal with spills and how that material needs to be stored. So it's definitely a great thought for now, but if that does come up, it's not like it's not checked then as well, right? So we can forward over if we needed the S2 classification
Yeah.
from the town regulations, yeah.
So as far as the wetland permit, are we okay with the proposal?
Well, it's so much better than the old one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that wasn't hard.
Yeah, they didn't make it. When I saw the old one, I'm not gonna lie, I said, I wish I had been an engineer 20 years ago, because it's way easier to get stuff permitted, apparently. Because that would have never, you wouldn't have gotten that permitted today if you tried.
Well, we hope we're smarter now.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right,
it's
of course,
always the
yeah.
hope.
So is this your conceptual, or are you going to be coming back with?
No, this is the plan. This has gone to AOT, it's gone to wetlands, and
And
it
it's
is,
in with planning
and
board
it's
right
in
now.
with planning board and Stantec as well.
But we have not seen it as a design review.
Officially, no.
Officially,
Yeah, but this is in design review right now.
yeah.
So you
that-
haven't seen it in design review, because I think
No,
we
but
were
you've answered
expecting
a lot of
comments back
questions,
next week.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have,
really?
yeah,
That's
we
what I'm
have
trying
5
to
days
figure
before
out.
they have to have
So,
comments back to us.
I mean,
Is that- what is
this is
Yeah.
the DRC plan, basically.
Yes, this is a plan that's submitted and it's in to Stantec, and I think it's due back to us by next Friday.
So we probably should just go ahead and comment.
I think so, yeah. Because I bet you $1 to a donut, we don't see these guys
Yeah.
again.
So,
We'll come back whenever you want us to.
All you gotta ask, yeah. Sorry, we couldn't make it to the last one to give you a little more time. He did just have a baby.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna throw him under the bus.
Congratulations.
okay, so plan comments.
I think the plan should, because of its unusual location here, should include, the planning board should include a condition that the tenants not store hazardous material. Not store or use, I guess. And I'm not sure how they do that. Let the whizzes in the planning department figure out the words, but
Well, that's where they might just list the criteria that you said these companies need to.
Right.
Comply
whatever,
with.
yeah,
But that
whatever it
doesn't
takes.
stop somebody somewhere down the line from coming in and saying, I want it to go to the PS3 level or something like that.
Right.
But they still have to come to planning board
Yeah.
and to you again.
And meet the requirements.
And
of
meet the
that, yeah.
requirements,
So again,
so-
it's a really valid point. I think that the town has actually already implemented
Yeah.
a lot of
Okay.
steps that kind of.
Because our
save us
intent
there, yeah.
is to, you know,
Town
S2
has
is a
a-
sprinkler intent. If you go to S3, there are different sprinkler
Right.
requirements,
Oh,
which
okay.
someone would have to come in and meet those all of us, you know,
Yeah.
there'd be a lot to do to move up to the next criteria.
Okay.
Well, and then, just by adding this comment, it could cover anybody who,
Yeah.
not in their normal business, would be storing, but, you know,
Or whose business is ambiguous in terms of the definition. of
Right,
this.
but, you know, Uncle Joe got a load of 6 bags of fertilizer and wants to keep it in their warehouse, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, it uses it, yeah, yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I think we need to show the snow storage.
Yep, and I do realize that'll probably be a comment from Stan Tech as well, that I did not, I noticed that today, I did not flag that well enough.
You heard me on landscaping, and I never did find a plan with any landscape. I see landscaping notes.
There is minimal landscaping,
Oh, I see something, maybe a tree.
We're.
Well, there's a landscape. plan.
There's a landscape plan, it's all loam and seed, and we're putting in as many trees as required by the town
That
ordinance.
remain.
Usually there's a list, and I
natural.
just can't find the list.
The
But
white part
it's,
is the thing.
it's not a huge amount of landscaping, just based on what we're doing, where we're doing it, and the
No, yeah,
area
no,
of
they're-
disturbance.
Yeah,
It's
Well, they
mostly
do, but
grass,
they're-
I think we're required 6 trees, which we have shown on the plan.
I didn't identify them as a tree from your plan, but I do now.
I'm sure I will
No,
outline
I
the
can-
species, but
Well,
Is
they're
there-
probably okay. It just, I just like to check them.
I
'cause
think it's in
sometimes
the
they get.
landscape plan, I think it's
Yeah.
baked, it's in the text, there might not be a table, I think it's in
yeah,
the text.
it's
on
in the
landscape
text,
plan.
it's,
Oh, okay.
Is there any wetland buffers on?
no, once the impacts are in, there's no buffers, the wetlands are all small enough.
Okay, I found it. It's
Yep,
up, it's
all right.
up here. Nothing, no, there's, nothing jumps out at me. Sometimes things really are probably not the right tree to plant there, if you know what I mean. But this looks good.
So is that it?
So, these wetlands, these 3 fingers, they're not connected to anything to the south?
To the south, I'm not positive, to be honest. They're not connected far, but we didn't obviously delineate down lots.
Right, well, what point I'm getting at is I don't understand why they wouldn't have buffers. And you're saying because they're less than a half an acre?
Yeah, once the connections go in, they're less than half an acre on site.
Which connections are those?
Once the roads go in, we're less than half an acre on site of wetlands.
Yeah, but the ordinance doesn't, it doesn't stop at the parcel bounds.
But they're not required to study those wetlands.
Does that tell us anything? No, that's the
They have to know that they're there.
I don't know,
Oh,
from the aerial, I think you can see where it goes down, and it's mostly very treed. And then that's just a property line.
I don't understand why there wouldn't be a buffer.
Because they're
The only
not,
reason you wouldn't have a buffer is if the total wetland is less than a quarter of an acre. All right?
Or half an acre.
It's half.
Half an
Half
acre.
an acre, sorry.
but if they fill it, it doesn't have a buffer anymore.
But they're not
Yeah.
filling it.
Oh, they're not filling it.
We are filling
They're
2
just crossing
locations,
it.
so there's no
Just the
buffer anymore.
crossings.
Yeah.
Well, my thought was, where were the signs gonna go, but it's basically
are
contained
delineating
within that
'Cause,
driveway.
We have to delineate the
Yeah, we
mitigation.
are gonna actually delineate the mitigation area as well. So
Okay,
people know they cannot disturb, cannot go past.
that makes sense.
Because you're putting culverts in, you're not filling it, right?
Well, we
Covered under the
have
road.
to fill to put the culverts in.
Right.
It's,
Well,
you know.
I know, but
You know,
So
you-
our understanding from the town and from DES is that those crossings delineate the wetlands from each other.
no, the state doesn't have anything to do with our buffers. That's a
Yep.
town ordinance.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're trying to say.
I mean, our understanding, talking with planning, was that these buffers are now, it's separated wetlands, so there are no buffers as we fill them.
Because they're less than,
Right.
Because they don't meet the half acre criteria.
no, it's not that. It's because they don't, because you narrowed the wetland down to the width of the
a
Culvert.
18-inch culvert, yeah.
And then once you did that, then you had little half-acre pieces. I guess.
But signs indicating the mitigation.
Yes, yeah, we have to post it. That was per
Pretty
fishing
much.
game requested. We put signs up, I think, every 100 feet noting the mitigation.
So, and that, on the southernmost crossing, I take it you have to have that for circulation, right? So the
It's
fire truck
it's
can.
circulation, it's trucks, but also fire trucks.
Yeah, the conversation really started with the fire department.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the space with that mitigation area and the wetlands. We don't have the space for a proper turnaround without having a full loop road. So that loop road is, yes, it provides circulation for maybe deliveries, but it was really started with the conversation with the fire department for emergency apparatus.
So there's, if that's gonna be, that's another 18-inch culvert, right?
Yeah.
So there's gonna be an impoundment back there.
No, I know it shows that wetlands that wide, but like I say, I would highly recommend going to walk it. It is not what it represents as
Or
on the
looking, if you
plan.
look through the 600-page hydraulic report,
Yeah.
it shows you that there's really no water moving through.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's no water actually
And that
flowing
was
through that
One
site.
of the larger challenges we had with the site was there's no water coming off of it as it is, and we have to maintain that as we're designing it.
Right.
So we.
Yeah.
Right, so there was no water coming off of it to begin with.
Yes,
Essentially,
yeah,
I mean,
wait, so-
I'm ad-libbing here, but it really was a very limited amount of water.
So to put it in perspective, we had to actually ask for a waiver from the town and DES on the 1-year storm, because right now there's 0 water leaving the site on a 1-year storm. You can't have, that doesn't make sense, it doesn't work logically.
Right.
So we've had, because we're at 0.01 CFS now, leaving on a 1-year storm.
Right.
So yes, it looks bigger than it is, but realistically, no water leaves that site.
Anything else? Okay, so basically, we have no objections to the wetland permit. And then just comments regarding the tenants not store any hazardous material and show snow storage on the plan.
And also you have to show where you're putting the signs on the plan, don't they?
For the
eventually?
mitigation.
The mitigation area,
Area?
yeah, and we can delineate that very easily, yeah.
Because, I mean, arguably, you would have a buffer that would coincide with the road. So putting the signs there serves 2 purposes.
Yeah,
Yep,
Right.
yep,
right.
correct.
I think we're good.
All
Awesome.
right, well,
Thank you
thank
guys
you
so
very much,
much.
we appreciate all your time tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any public comment this evening?
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my glasses.
Oh, you want to borrow mine?
Are they work? Reading glasses?
Yeah. They're 250s.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Full service commission.
Oh, I can see now. So I was just wondering whether the town of Londonderry has a natural resource inventory. Now, this is kind of off subject of what you folks were talking. Is that okay?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Public
Yeah.
comment.
we're done with those people.
Yeah. Actually, I had some thoughts in that regard, but let's move on to this. So, I think natural resources are really important, and I'm sure you folks do too. And so, I guess I have a few questions, and one of them is, does Londonderry have a current, up-to-date natural resource inventory? And I'm just going to read the questions, and then you folks can either answer or talk amongst yourselves. But and so, and if the town were to go forward and look at that, what would the cost be? I assume there would be a cost. And would this require the town council or the town manager to approve it, or could the Conservation Commission decide they want to do something, maybe they have some funds, whatever it costs, would be reasonable?
Oh, she's locked out.
I got it.
Would there be any grant monies available
It's gone
for
now.
such a thing?
So, do we have a natural resource inventory?
Yes, but it's out of date. However, the good news is we submitted it as part of the town strategic plan,
Yeah, that's what I
but
thought.
we haven't seen that to know whether it's, unless you've got inside information, Mike.
So,
we hope it will appear in that strategic plan.
if we were to redo that, who do we hire to do it? Southern New Hampshire Planning?
Well,
That's an option.
you know, Mike's predecessor did the first one, so,
Oh, oh, is that right?
but yeah, I'm not sure he's got the time for another dance on his card, but well, we'd have to figure that out.
Okay.
Who are you saying would go before? Who would you have to
It
talk
would-
about
it-
this too?
We had staff do it last time. Town staff did it.
Oh, just town staff? Mm-hmm, yeah.
Now, separate from that, but, I mean, related is the fact that we are in the process of hiring someone to do a forest management plan, which is really an intensive natural resource plan, but it's not for the whole town, it's just for probably the Musquash.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking the whole town.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, and the reason it kind of, well, let me just finish here. One of the things, and you folks talk about wetland impact, and it seems though a lot of times when a developer comes forward, that they're dealing with a lot of wetland, and often, or many times, they're allowed to fill in or maybe move too close to wetland. So, and the reason I kind of picked this up, because I kind of look at other towns and what they're doing. And this was the town of Pelham, actually, went to Nashua planning, and somehow they got it done. And it's done pretty well, it looks like to me. I'm sure there's some cost to do that. In this case, I would think the town would go to Southern New Hampshire Planning and ask them if they could do it, what that would take, what the cost would be, but I just think it's important, and maybe it's something.
Well, I know there's 2 meetings scheduled in April, maybe, to discuss the strategic plan. Do you remember seeing that on
Yeah.
on an email that came out? Yes, on April 13th and 22nd. There are meetings to discuss all the things that we submitted, all the departments submitted for the
Right,
strategic plan.
right.
So that would be the beginning of getting that started.
So, yeah, that would be an opportunity to bring that forward, and with the town manager and others,
Yeah.
and, yeah. Okay, I guess that's all I have.
Good.
And thank you
We're
for allowing
working
me to
on it.
speak.
Thanks, Ray. It looked good on you, by the way.
Amazon. I'm gonna skip the Forester applications for now. DPW is slow right now, and they've asked if we want the Scobie Pond boat launch put back in. And my first reaction was, yep, okay, April will be our 5 months, because it has to be out for 5 months. So mid-April would work, but I'm sure a couple weeks early would be fine. But my dilemma is, how far in do we put it? Because remember, last year, at some point, it was too deep, and then it ended up too shallow. So I don't know how to determine where to put it. And
If you put it in now, the pond should be pretty high because of all the snow melt.
yeah,
So if you put it in so it's accessible now, it might be a little more higher and drier later in the summer, but that's probably better than having to swim out to it.
yeah. Which I write down everything, so I'm gonna look and see when we put it in last year, because, we put it in, so it worked at that point, but then the water got deeper after that.
Right?
It could be a turkey shoot based on how much precipitation you get.
That's what I'm afraid of. Well, and we weren't even sure if it was precipitation or beavers doing something.
Too many variables.
So I suppose we're winging it no matter what we do. We can't control rain or beavers. So, all right, I'll just
Yeah, I think,
tell them to pick a date or,
Yeah,
tell them our concerns.
yeah.
Yeah, if they have time now, like, I would absolutely have them
Yeah.
get it in and then just do whatever is good now, and no matter when we put it in,
Yeah,
it
if it's
could
a
be
problem, we
out of the water or underwater in 2 months. So if they can put it in, sounds good to me. Just put it
Yes.
at a good spot right now.
And just another topic, the people that came in about putting a trail in Duck Pond, their planning meeting is tomorrow at 3:30 at the Baldwin Auditorium, if you care to participate. I will probably go to that. And then a reminder that tomorrow night at 6:30 is the Right to Know class. It'll be in here. Did you get an email
I
today?
got the email with the slideshow.
Okay, I didn't know if it went to just me or everybody. So the slideshow is available. It will be taped, so if you can't make it, you can review it online.
Oh, well, does that mean if I?
Just don't tell me. Yeah. Any old business that anybody has? How about new business? Then, let's see what my, I would accept a motion to go into non-public session according to RSA 91A:3 2B to discuss a hiring.
I so move.
Okay, motion by Deb, second by Mike. All in favor, we do a roll call vote, so start and say aye,
Hi,
and then your name.
Gary Delagrada.
I'm Mike Speltz.
Hi, Susan Malowin.
I, Deb Levens.
I'm Marge Bedoy.
By Harry Schwartz.
I, David Heafy.
All right, we can go into one of the small rooms. Discussion of minutes. The correction I have is in where the members are listed. Gary is an alternate and Harry is a full member. She's got those switched. Okay.
like to make a motion to accept the minutes of March 10th with the corrections that Marge has mentioned.
Second.
Deb. I'm just gonna quick correct one thing. Under the Pine Isle Trail, she has Jim Isaac, and she has the SP because she didn't know how to spell it. His name actually ends with a K. That's the only difference, ISAAK. So we can correct that. Now you can make your motion, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of March 10th with the corrections that have been mentioned.
I will second that.
Motion by David, second by Deb. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain? Motion carries unanimous. Just one other motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion by Deb, second by Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.